There's a Sufi story that is full of what can be called sacred symbols and symbolism. So let's see if it can throw some illumination on our endeavour to reconcile what has been called the final paradox before liberation, and take us to what has been described as paradox, the two-sided coin, but take us right to the middle where that reconciliation takes place. And it's the story about Rustam. Now, Rustam was a Persian hero. There are many stories abounding about his prowess and his adventures. But he was born at a time when the great mythical bird called the Simurgh was extant. Now we can look up the mythical qualities of this great bird in Wikipedia if we care to. But it said that this great creature gave Rustam a feather and advised him that if he was ever in trouble, that he should burn this feather and it would call down the great bird. Now it so happened that Rustam had an arch enemy called Butam. Now they had had many battles over the years, but neither had won. And there was one such battle when both of them, bloodied and battered, lay on the ground. But Rustam, with seemingly the last of his strength, was able to get up and leave Butam lying there in his bloodied state. Now, when Butam did manage to get up, the Afrits and the other evil creatures that gathered around him mocked him, stating, "Have you not yet been able to beat this Rustam?" And so, of course, Butam was quite abashed by this. So he forged a plan. He decided that he would build a great fortress. And so he did. Its embattlements were really impossible for anyone to break down. But after this great edifice was built, Butam sent out what you might call a challenge, not an invitation, but a challenge to Rustam to come and meet him again, once again, in battle. So of course the word got to Rustam, and what could he do? He had to respond to this challenge. So riding his great horse, which had been with him in many a battle before, and they rode up to the doorway of this great fortress. Now, as they approached that doorway, two of the very demonish Afrits that were the cohorts of Butam came out to greet Rustam, but with his mace he disposed of one, and his great horse, using its hoof, disposed of the other. But Rustam was not at that time, he considered, ready to meet Butam in battle. So he had the great benefit of having a cloak that rendered him invisible. So putting on this cloak, he entered the doorway of this great place But, of course, Bhutam and the great horde of demons and the like that gathered around him could not find Rustam. There was his horse, but there was no sign of Rustam. And this gave Rustam an opportunity to explore this edifice. So he entered room after room after room. In one there were great treasures, in others there were a great arsenal of weapons, and so forth, until he came to a room with a large door, but the key was in the door. And when he opened the door and went inside, there was a maiden hanging by her hair from the ceiling. Now Rustam immediately recognized this maiden as some kind of royal personage. And when he asked, of course, she confirmed that she was the princess, the daughter of a great king of Turkestan. So, of course, Rustam took her down from her place and said to her, "Come, wear this cloak of invisibility and take this feather, for I am now going to fight Bhutam. But if there is a problem, burn this feather." So Rustam came out now, able to be seen, and he and Bhutam faced off in the courtyard of this great fortress. And they began a battle that went on to and fro and to and fro, until it seemed that Bhutam had an advantage and Rustam was on the ground. Now, of course, Bhutam had this bevy of evil beings to encourage him on. Rustam had only the princess, who had to keep silent. She could not reveal herself to give him encouragement. But just as Bhutam was about to raise his weapon to lop off the head of Rustam, the princess burned the feather, and the great Simurgh bird came flying down, her huge wings flapping, her talons coming down on the heads of all the evil demons gathered there. And she said, who dares to threaten Rustam?" And with a great flame coming from her beak, immediately Bhutam and all the demons were turned to stone. Now the great bird raised Rustam up so that he was whole and unhurt once again, wished him and the princess well, and gave Rustam another feather and sent them on their way as Rustam on his great horse took the princess back to her homeland of Turkestan, where a great celebration took place. 7 days and 7 nights of feasting. Again, stating that all stories are our story, and all the characters, archetypes, symbols in them are part of ourselves. Our psyche, you could say. And when we bring all of these elements together, the symbols of every story ever told and to be told, part of us, seemingly sometimes warring aspects, bringing conflict, darts into us, but arriving at this place where we can say, like all paradoxes, two sides of a coin, we come to the middle, we come to the place where they're all reconciled. Can we, in this story, pinpoint, recognize that place without a need to analyze what each of its elements represent? The Simurgh bird, Rustam, Rustam, the horse, the princess. They're all part of the amazing matrix of our being. But what is this center? Where are all things reconciled, without conflict, without analysis. And how does this story lead us there?